there's always, we have a lot of success stories in the office, and there's always those successful people, tried and true, good markets, bad markets, and we know who they are, but then there's also some stories of people who've been very successful, kind of fallen down, and they're kind of getting back up on their feet. And to me, those are the most inspiring stories, and people that are really just doing the basics. And I think Mark, and there's a lot of them in here. Mark is one of them, just because he's got kind of a crazy life. He's got 10 kids, all under the age of 14. So has lots of mouths to feed. Doesn't have a lot of time, because can you imagine like 14 kids under the age of 14 between sports and life and everything else that's going on?
We're not 14 yet, but
under the age of 14.
Right.
10 kids under the age of 14. Not yet. Did you hear the key word? Not yet. 10 kids under the age of 14. Just a lot going on. And so again, Mark, I know he has owned his. Well, why don't we just do this? So I know a lot of people in here know about you. Just give a little bit of your background. Like, again, where'd you grow up? How'd you get into real estate, and kind of what's led you to Intero and then ultimately the Saratoga office? Then we kind of just talk about your business a little bit more.
Okay. So I grew up in San Jose. I graduated in high school in the early 90s. Got into the mortgage business in 91, 92, right out of high school. Got my real estate license, was working for my family. We started a mortgage company. Mid to late 90s, actually started transitioning into real estate, and bought a franchise of another competitor. Through the early 2000s, I had my own office, had up to 7 or 8 agents, and in 2006 realized that that's probably not the way to go, and joined Intero Silver Creek in 2006. And which is great, a great office, and that led me over here to Saratoga. In 2009?
Has it been that long?
10. It's been 3 years, I think, just because I just wanted more Intero.
Right. Good.
Yeah, so that's the path.
So it's kind of cool to know that. Here's a guy who's been in real estate for a long time. Went down the path of, hey, I want to own my own company. Because maybe realize that maybe that's not the best thing to do. And I often tell people, in the real estate business, either you got to be really small, any business, I think you either need to be really small or really big. That middle zone is kind of the dead zone, and because there's just not enough economies of scale. And so I think he probably kind of discovered that. But so I know he came, and then 2011, was not a great year for you. It was like, and I know we talked a lot, and hopefully laid out a lot of the groundwork to make what 2012 ended up being one of your best years in real estate.
Yeah.
And I know 2013 is already turning out to be, a year where you told me you're basically going to be able to do, you think you're on pace to do a deal a week through February.
Yeah.
Closing.
We're trying to make that happen through
Yeah.
the whole. We're working on trying to extend that through the first quarter.
So I guess the question would be, so what do you think happened, beyond from 2011 to 2012 that had you make that 700% plus jump in your business?
Well, I think my business in 2010 was kind of on life support, and like a lot of people, I think 2010 was kind of a bad year, but it was bad 3 years before that, and it was broken. My business model was broken 3 years before that, and I've always said it was kind of like an alcoholic who hasn't hit rock bottom. My business hadn't hit rock bottom, so I had to confront all the different things that I wasn't doing. So 2010, everything that I was doing was broken, and then it was finally just getting to the point. Literally, plainly broke. You just kind of get to the point where you're just like, wow, this is not where I wanted my business to be. Mm-hmm. And then I remember coming in and talking to you, saying, look, I just really need to just tear this whole thing apart and rebuild it back, go right back to the fundamentals, and embraced it. I talked that talk for like a year or two, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and kind of fits and starts into those things. But it wasn't until you just kind of, you really have to get to that, you have to confront it, really, and that's I think the point that it happened.
So what are some of the, let's probably go back to when your business was broken, 2010. What did you do initially? Because I know maybe you're doing some things a little bit different today than you did in the very beginning. So go back to like when you finally hit that rock bottom. You're like, okay, I can't take it anymore. Enough's enough. I'm going to just do whatever it takes to be successful. What did you do like the first 6, 12 months to you know, get that cranking?
Okay, so it was probably like March, April of 2011, where, you know, the first quarter I thought I was starting to get some momentum, but everything I touched, buyers weren't getting into contracts, listings were canceling, and, you know, and you get married to that one good listing that you have. This is going to get me through this month. It's a $25,000 commission. So it was like May, and it was just like everything was turning to dust, and it was like, look, I need to build up my inventory. I came in and talked to you, and I came up with kind of a three-pronged approach to just jumpstart my business, but also make it complementary to having a foundation. So that was committing to doing open houses every single weekend for the rest of the year, and that was one thing that I committed to, and I was very specific about the type of open house that I wanted. I wanted to establish some market share in Los Gatos, Saratoga area. I wanted that average price to be $1 million. And people like Andy C., you know, you talk to him, and you know, he's got a formula. You do 4 open houses, you're going to get a transaction. It may not happen on that 4th open house, but if you did it for 6 months or a year, and you're diligent and you do it the right way, it'll happen. So I just said, okay, well, I'm going to do $1 million open houses every single weekend for the rest of the year, and hopefully that'll translate into $1 million sale every month, which it did.
But it did. But here's the interesting. That started, you said, in
it's like May is when I really got it.
And you didn't really have a great year in 2011. I mean, so you probably ended up making.
No.
It's just, you know, so probably you didn't start to reap the rewards of all that until probably 6 or 8 months later.
That's right.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, so it was, so from the open house, there was other things I was doing during the week, but the open house was really key. I remember May, June, July, and it was, you're getting leads every weekend, and you're showing, sometimes you get 3 people through an open house, sometimes you get 50. I get back to work on Monday morning, and you're chasing down these buyer leads, and you're adding them to listing alert, and you're just kind of all over the place. But we had specific things that we'd do at the open house. But I remember it was July 3rd. Nobody was at the open house. Everybody was on their way to the beach. It was like a Sunday. I mean, it was depressing. It was like, what am I doing here? But I had to commit. I said, I'm going to do it. I don't care if it's Memorial Day weekend or whatever. And I got a phone call. The people didn't even come through it. They just called and said, hey, can we put horses at that property? And I said, no. What are you looking for? And they said, we want up to 1.5 million, horse property, Los Gatos schools. And I said, okay. And I just went, there's 6 properties available. You want to see them? Sure. Grab all my signs. See you guys later. And took off. And I went and showed her those properties. And the first one, she said, yeah, this is it. This is it. My husband's overseas right now, but he's going to be back later on in the week. Let's go see it. I was like, sweet. Okay. So later on that week, husband gets back. We go see it. Yeah, let's make an offer. It's a short sale. Took 6 months to close. But they needed to sell their place. Well, that was 1.2 million. Los Gatos, easy sale. So I had something to work on, and you know, it's down the road, but it was like, okay, all right, that worked. 60 days in, I at least got something on the board, and ooh, another one. That's $1 million sale. Okay, that's $2 million from that open house. So I kept on doing open house for the next 4 months, but that one turned into, it overlapped with all kinds of other activities that turned into a string of $1.2 million deals, 6 of them. So that their neighborhood, I had the pocket listing. We're waiting for the short sale to go through. It took 6 months, but I started hitting their little pocket. It's 200 homes, and I went with the little Markets Hot Flyer the first time.
The cheesy one we created.
Actually, yeah, no, it was the second one. It was the second one, and it was nice. It was kind of like this, and I spent a little bit more money than I should have. I had it printed at Kinko's, and I put it on nice paper, and I went around the neighborhood. Boom. Got a phone call the next morning. You know, we really like your flyer. My husband's in marketing. We need to call a realtor today.
And what did she do? What kind of business was the wife in?
The wife was a real estate agent.
With Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Local.
Yeah. And you know, and the biggest objection to the listing was, I don't want my broker to see my listing come up with Intero. And I kind of laughed, and maybe she sees this video. She actually.
Well, now she's actually a referral agent with us, just so you guys all know. But she was with Keller Williams at the time.
So that was huge. That was like, wow. I mean, I remember I was at a like a toilet inspection the next day at some condo my buyers were buying, and I get this phone call because I was stoked. I went and did my thing the day before, and she says, "Hey, Mark, this is so and so. We got your flyer," and I was like, "Really? You know, sweet. You know." So I go over there. It was easy. We listed it. That one, by the way, we ended up taking off the market, probably go back on a little bit. But it was 2 signs, 2 open houses, and they went on the same time as the new listing in Los Gatos. And it was funny because once those 2 listings went on in the market, there's like 3 really prominent Alon Pinel agents that live in the neighborhood. Both those sellers were telling me after those 2 signs went up, it was awesome. And I even saw them when I was leaving my open house. Those agents walk in the neighborhood with their flyers, and I saw their flyers. It was like, oh, you know, someone's getting our, yeah, it was great. It feels good. That really feels good. So, so that, the open houses, that was huge. But then that turned into another couple, saw the photos. Can you open it up and show us? Don't like it. You have anything else like it? They went and bought, so they turned into a nice buyer. They bought a $1.3 million place in Santa Cruz, which also, and then another guy made an offer with another agent. And he bought another place in Campbell. And 60 days later, he called me up, and he's like, look, I liked you when I talked to you at the open house, and we didn't get that house. I bought another place in Campbell. He goes, but I don't really want to live in Campbell anymore. Can you sell it for me? Sweet. Okay. So I go over there, and easiest listing appointment, walked in. We'd already, I mean, we were text messaging and stuff like that. And I walked over there, and he said, yeah, I bought it for $1,150,000. It was an REO. I don't know, I'm just not digging it here. I'm on the road all the time, so I think I can get a 1.25 for it. I'm like, well, now's the market to do it. We listed it, sold it the first week, and it was like, wow, okay. So the open houses, you don't know how it's going to work, but Andy was right. You do get those 6 deals in 6 months. You just don't know how it's going to happen. It might happen the first weekend. It parlays, but if you're not doing the open houses and you're not doing some door knocking to complement it, you know, you may not be able to overlap these things. So that was kind of the breakthrough moment.
Okay. So again, a lot of those deals started closing the first part of last year. So
right.
Now talk a little bit about 2012. And just before you go there, I mean, I think most of you in here already know that Mark, grew up in San Jose. He lives out by San Jose Country Club, which the average sales price is way less. I mean, it's probably like 400, 500 maybe now.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill, yeah.
400,000 or 500,000.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like Mark was a Los Gatos guy, knew the market. He went in there and just made a conscious decision that I'm going to get an average sales price of $1 million. Now, you didn't walk away from all your business over in San Jose. You're still cranking those deals too.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a lot. It was nice to be able to complement some of these doubles with the singles he was hitting out over there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was one thing. I'd always farmed my farm in the East Foothills. So I added the open house thing because you go to these training seminars and a lot of sales trainers will say, oh, how do you like to live your life as a realtor, sitting at an open house, waiting for people to come? But you know what? I had a big revelation when you see huge agents like Kim Connor, like Andy, huge agents at other offices, and you go around on the weekends and what are they doing? They're doing open houses. They work. They're real. No matter what some of these sales trainers say, if you're consistent about it, you have the right attitude about it, you get more deals. So farming, I kind of started neglecting my farm in the mid-2000s because, frankly, and it was a big farm. It was like 3,000 homes. I let myself believe some things that weren't true. Like, for instance, at one point, I mean, Nancy Venegas was the top listing agent in my farm. There were so many REOs. I mean, it was like REOs and short sales everywhere, and it was just kind of demoralizing. It's East Foothill, 95127. At one point in time, there was like 400 listings just in that area. I mean, it was crazy. It was like a tidal wave of crushing short sales and stuff like that. So I didn't react to that the right way, and I just kind of neglected it. And I'd still get 1 or 2 listings a year just by brand recognition, just by my name. And that's one thing I did in 2011. I started hitting that again hard, really hard, and consistently. I mean, actually, probably more than consistently, like coming over the top, people. But that immediately started to bear fruit. So that was huge. And then added, so that's my weekly day. On the weekdays, it's like, okay, I have nothing else to do. We're beating the street. And there's a couple of things that we did that really helped us be a lot more productive doing that, so you could get a massive amount of doors done in a short amount of time. And depending on if you have a little bit of money, I mean, I figured, okay, I spend $100 and somebody else does it with me, and they get 500 doors done. Well, that's Starbucks for like a week and a half. Well, let's exchange that. I'll drink coffee here at the office, and I'm going to pay a teenager $100 to do 500 doors for me. Meanwhile, I'm doing 500, and my kids are helping me. Well, guess what? By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's 1,000 doors. And that's one day. You don't know. I mean, people waste a lot of time in an office, and one day goes by like that. But you accumulate these days and these weeks, and next thing you know, you look back and you see this huge number behind you. Like, damn, we did 9,000 doors in 90 days. Like, wow, that's sweet. And then what's really awesome about it is like, wow, well, there's like 8 listing appointments and 3 listings. Well, cool. So actually the ratios are even easier when you really get set in a farm. So we did, I don't know if you want to go into that, but there's some things that we did that really made it a lot easier to get a lot of doors done, and some mindset things that we did that really helped with that. And that immediately bore fruit. And then we added that Los Gatos because of that first little listing. I didn't know anything about Los Gatos neighborhoods. Didn't know anything. It was just like, okay, I'm just going to start kicking up some dust in this area. And it's fun. It's really fun going into a new area. It's almost easier to farm an area that you aren't in because you have no strings attached. There's no drunk monkey in there kind of telling you like, oh, here's my kid's baseball coach. I don't want to see him right now, that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know anybody in this neighborhood. I'm just going to paper the heck out of it until, and some people, sellers out there sometimes have that mindset. They're like, I'm sick of so-and-so in this neighborhood. I like you, let's go. And that happens. And that's a good thing to think about when you're in a new area. And sometimes it's really refreshing that way. So.
Yeah. So, so I think a couple of things, I mean, and I've talked about it a lot here with you. I mean, one of the key words is consistency, or 2 key words, consistency and massive. It's, I think, a lot of us get on again, off again, on again, off again on doing certain things. We're trying this, we're trying that. It doesn't work. We don't give anything really an opportunity to, get traction. But when you think about the fact that he says he did 9,000 pieces in 90 days, my guess is there's many people in here that haven't done 9,000 pieces in their 10 or 20-year real estate career. I'll venture to guess the majority haven't, and so I mean, that's not rocket science, it really isn't, and Mark and I have talked about it, and it is consistent. So why don't you just talk about, like what have you done in like the last, 60 days to make sure that 2013 is going to be better than 2012, which was already one of your best years ever?
Yeah, so Thanksgiving, we committed to 10,000 doors between Thanksgiving and Super Bowl Sunday. There's 3 weeks left of that. We're about 5,500 in. We had a 2-week gap because a lot of sick kids in the house. But so this next 2 weeks, we've got a lot to make up for. 3 weeks to make up for to get to that 10,000 number. But that already bore fruit. We got $1 million listing 2 days after Christmas that came out of the blue, absolutely out of the blue, and we went into contract on that last night. And we put it on Friday, and so that pays for any marketing or anything I'm going to do. My first quarter set, it's $1 million listing, so it's like, okay. But that's a real momentum builder. But there's another listing for $390,000 that it's going to take a couple more weeks to come on, but that came from that first 5,000. I can't wait to see what happens with this next 5,000. And I know there's still a couple more deals in that last 5,000 that'll come 6 months from now, whenever, because notepads bear fruit. Way down the line.
And we've talked about notepads, so you're consistently doing that, and we've talked about, I tell all you guys, I mean, notepads, it seems kind of crazy and ridiculous, and I always tell you notepads are the key, because at the end of the day, the reality of it is, no matter what marketing piece you typically are going to drop off at somebody's house, you're kidding yourself if you think they're going to keep it forever. The reality is they're going to take it, and they're going to throw it in the trash. They'll never throw away a notepad, and with a notepad, you're there with them for the next 3 months of their life. You're at the grocery store with them. You're on the refrigerator with them, you're leaving the notes with them, and then that way, because they may drop you may drop something off today, and they may have no plans in moving, and all of a sudden somebody gets a job transfer next week or in 2 weeks from now, and they need to call you. They don't remember who you are or how to get a hold of you, but your information is right there in front of them all the time. And I can't tell you how many times in my real estate career I got listings, right? People say, I'm standing here staring at your picture on a notepad and just wanted to call and list my house. You know, and so it is an incredibly important part of it. So
it is.
So again, it's consistency, and it's doing it massively. You know, I hear people, I knocked on 25 doors or dropped off 50. I mean, look at, you know, anybody in here, and we had this conversation in Jumpstart yesterday. It's not a matter of whether you can or can't to be successful and get what Mark had. It's a matter of whether you will or won't. Okay, are you willing to be consistent? Are you willing to do it to a massive level? You know, and so those that are not having the result, it's not that you can't. It's just that you've, you know, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously have made the decision that you're not going to do it. So there's just something kind of that you need to think about. So with that, there's some specific questions in here that people that would like to ask. Monique, you real quick?
As a lender, I visited many open houses, and so you see different realtors doing different things, some doing nothing, some talking to people. So I'm curious what you do at your open houses.
So open house, it's a great question, because there's people that do open houses all year round that don't get any transactions out of it. So you got to be free and easy, but you have to be premeditated about it, and you have to have a sense of purpose about your open house. Every open house, and in fact, if there's some way to get a Craigslist ad out, you don't have a listing, find somebody's listing you can put a Craigslist ad
Bell
out
ringer ad.
You know, you've got to put, so the open house is simply an excuse to promote yourself and to meet people and to not get in their way. You know, this market, people are just going to, you just have to open the door for them and try to help them out. So what I would do, I'm doing other people's open house. I show up with a hot sheet of every other open house in that price range in the area that's going on right now. And when they walk in, you know, somebody walks in and say, hey, I'm Mark, I'm not the listing agent, I'm holding this house open for the listing agent. Here's a list of all the other homes just like this in the area. Have you seen any of these? And they all do the same thing and look at it. They don't even look at the house. They walk up to the counter and they sit down and they look at it and go, we didn't see this one. And then, what's that one like? Oh, it's awesome. It's a dead open house. Let me go over there and open it for you. And what's great about it too, put the other list at the bottom that aren't open, because then you have an excuse to go and open it for them. And that happened a few times. And I still have those buyers where, let's run over there, I can open that for you. Call the listing agent, can I open it? You know, whatever. And that's huge. And then, you like that list? Yeah, this is really informational. Well, I can email that to you every Saturday morning, so next Saturday you go out, you already have it available to you, because it's got a nice map, it's everything, and they don't print it out like that at home. And they go, really? I said, yeah. They give you all their contact information. Fantastic. Well, at least Monday morning you got 5, 6 people to put on listing alert. That's really what you're looking for. You don't have to hit a home run that weekend, because the affirmation at the end of the day, you put your head on your pillow when you got home, I did my job. I held an open house, I put my Craigslist ad out, I met 4 people, I put them on listing alert, I can sleep. And that's all we looked for. So, and that's the attitude you have to have. Too many people press too hard when you get to an open house. They follow them around the house. Do you have an agent? Worst question in the world. Worst question in the world. Don't ever ask them that. No, they'll tell you.
Yeah, and I mean, especially, it's like, I mean, I think for those that are successful at open houses, and I see Pam Rogers back there, I know is like built a huge career and had her best year ever last year in real estate too, off of open houses, and Andy and Suzanne and all the other ones. It's not about, I think sometimes we spread ourselves too thin and try and get connected with everybody. I know, you may have 100 people through an open house. Your goal maybe should try and find 1 or 2 people that you really connect with. And if you don't really connect with somebody, don't fight it. Don't try and create a relationship with somebody that, if it's not natural, like if Mark DeTar walked into an open house and he was not, I could tell Mark and I would hit it off. We just, Pam Rogers walked in and we'd hit it off. Most of you guys in here, you walk in an open house and we just hit it off and it would be great. There's other people you walk in, I see a lot of times agents like trying to sell people or create relationships with people that there's friction before they even really, they can't even get the person to come meet with them in the office.
Yeah.
It's like the first thing is like if they're unwilling to do that, then just cut bait and move on. There's plenty of buyers out there, but it's don't try and get everybody. Just be conscious. If I can get 1 good person out of this open house that I really connect well with, that I enjoy being with, because then you're looking forward to spending time with them, it can be a good thing.
Yeah. And now a good leading question. How'd you hear about the open house? That's a huge question. I live down the street. Fantastic. How do you like the neighborhood? Da 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 da. It goes that way. You make a connection, they're a seller lead. They know somebody else is going to sell, da da da. You learn so much that way. I saw it on the internet. Great. How long have you been looking? Oh yeah, did you grow up around here? Yeah, I went to Midi. Oh, so did I. Psh,
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. You know, it's.
Well, and I think it's always, it's always about, you can't be selfish. You can't be, it needs to be about them.
About
you always
them.
have to have the focus. You can't be about making a commission. It can't be about doing a deal. It has to be about helping people.
Yep.
And when you genuinely, so you have to almost brainwash yours. I know sometimes it's hard. We want to make a fee. We want to make, or sometimes we need to make a commission.
Yep.
But it really needs to be selfless, and it really needs to be about helping those people. So any other questions from anybody else in here?
So Mark, when you would get those 5 for Monday morning, would you immediately put them on your SOI and start paper, mail and dripping on them as well?
Yeah, whatever I had. But, it's funny because some of them, it was a great conversation yesterday. Maybe they're real hot to trot. Maybe they just fizzle out. But it's just that the numbers game. You're just adding them to your drip, whatever. And then they call you 6 months later like, hey, I'm back in the market. We just went and rented for a year, that kind of thing. So I didn't push too hard. I'd do a little bit of follow-up. I wouldn't call all the time, but I did what I told them I was going to do. And that's put them on a listing alert. And then they would get their open house listing alert on Saturday mornings.
And you would send that to them. Well, you would actually send that to them individually.
Yeah, some of them, if they were really good leads, it would be really highly personal. Others, that's all they wanted was just a listing alert, or if it was a listing lead, because that's really what I was after, was listing leads. I wasn't really that interested in chasing down a lot of buyers and putting them in my car. There's a lot of wild goose chases you can go on that way. So
good.
So I wanted to be.
Mark, do you do any kind of direct mail, or you just like?
Yeah, that's the expireds. That was one thing. That was the third prong. It was open houses, farming, and expireds. And
And your COI, which I know.
And well, COI, yes.
COI, that's like,
yeah.
that's a big part of your business.
COI, yeah. And COI I've always been good at. That's really natural. We have a really big, deep COI that's always, and we have, everybody in my family has as many kids as I do. So, there's a lot of marriages and a lot of new first-time home buyers. So, but that was new. It was I really committed to being consistent about investing in expireds and having a campaign for expireds. And I know it's not like one of the hallmark, but there's probably 4 listings that came out of it last year that are just slam dunk, call you out of nowhere. And there's a couple of different ways that we did it, but I don't know if you want to go into it or.
You can, quickly if you can.
Okay,
Just give a few
quickly.
minutes.
I made a list of, this is like the Glengarry leads. This is a clean, one of this is Mountain View, and one of this is Los Gatos. I have a bunch of these in my office, but they're listings that were on the market for a 6-month period in 2010 that never sold. So you got to clean it on the MLS, and I wrote down all their MLS numbers. And I sent them all a notepad with one of our Market's Hot flyers, one of these that we have, and it just goes in here like this, a notepad, and it just says the Market's Hot, and this has got all the data on it. And you just forget about them, and you get phone calls throughout the year like, hey, that was great information, I still have your notepad. But I'll hit them 3 times. There's one that I hit the whole list. This is the 3rd time I've hit that whole list. And they're all from that window. Beth bought one of the listings and never went on the MLS. Because all those listings that expired in 2010, it's because they were overpriced then, they would all get multiple offers now at that same price. So I just put hundreds of notepads on my desk, put a little handwritten note on each one, Market's Hot, give me a call, Market's Hot, give me a call, Market's Hot, give me a call. I just did that for like on a rainy day when you can't go out and walk. And fill those all up, put them in your envelopes, hand address the envelopes, mail them out, forget about it. And it's a little bit more money because you have to pay for postage and a couple of things. And then a month later, do it again, a little bit more different message, maybe not with the notepad. Hit them 3 times. And it's funny, you go there, you go to a listing appointment, and they've got a stack of stuff from other agents. I see Jay Humes, I see Brett Marion, and it's awesome because it's like, one of them was like, hey, I got this handwritten note. It's got really nice handwriting. Is this your sister? And it's like, no, that's my brother, Dominic. And it's fun. And, if you hit them, it's like a little expired farm. And it's a good idea. And it works. It just works. It's just like a little investment. And you just.
So just out of curiosity, and then we'll wrap up with this.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you had 4 listings. How many of those, including the times that you've done it through, how many pieces do you think you sent out to get 4 listings that closed last year?
Very easily, if you send out 1,000, you'll get a deal for sure, and maybe more.
So 1,000 per deal. And how many out of those 4 deals? What was the gross closed commissions you think about average, or not average, total out of all 4 of those deals?
Well, they're all the average sales price 600,000.
So 600. So say
500,000.
So say it's $2 million bucks. So let's say you made 50 grand on that, and so you made, so you're making basically $12,500 for every 1,000 that you put out.
Yeah.
So that just, there's the math for you guys. So it's about $100. Is that, yeah. So whatever you're, so that's the math that you guys just need to be thinking about as you're kind of going through it. So yes.
Mark had just said he had strategies on how to hit more doors.
Yeah. So you just tell, well, it was an army of kids, right? But tell them.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. I have a guy that you get a teenager. I made these little cards. So my farm's broken up into 12 maps. This is number 1, and it's like a certificate. It says $100 at the bottom of it. And I give it to my teenager. It could be anybody. It could be your cousin, it could be your nephew, whatever. And you say, here's the starting line. That's the finish line. It's all highlighted. It's very simple to follow the sides of the street. It's $100. Go do this. When you're done, come back. I'm going to give you a $100 bill. And they're like, sweet. It's 4 hours. They're getting $25 cash an hour. And they think it's the greatest thing in the world. All they're doing, they put their iTunes on and they walk. You just got to make sure they're not going to go dump them all behind the McDonald's.
Which has happened to him, I know.
Yes. So
and it's happened to me in the day too.
Yeah. You just have to be diligent. You maybe have to drive in there, because I'll go into another neighborhood at the same time, and this is like 300 something homes, but I'll go do one at the same time, and I'll take my kids out, and we can do 500 homes in 2 hours, because I'll put 2 at the end of each street. They work towards each other, and we start rolling, and they get Slurpees. So
that's better than $100.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, one last question. Go ahead, Pam.
Do you talk to the houses or just drop the flyer? Do you knock on the door to see if you can visit for a second?
Very first time I went out, I knocked on doors, and they called the cops on me. So I drop everything, and I run into people, and some people do. It's such an affirmation when you go out. You feel good because people react the opposite way that you think. Almost 0 negative experiences. The guy that called the cops on me turned into a listing appointment. So.
And so, do you go out in a uniform? Do you wear? Yeah, I know you.
Intero visor, Intero shirt, shorts.
Whatever the weather permits. Whatever. Got the Intero visor, Intero.
There's all kinds of tricks. Brett knows it. 2 pairs of shoes. Switch them every time you get back to your car. Switch your shoes. Switch your socks. Blisters will kill you for a week.
So, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, there it is, you guys. I mean, and that's like, so you make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. Is that kind of crazy? So anyway, all right, you guys. Well, thanks. Hey, Mark, I totally appreciate it. That was really cool.